Alrighty, it is currently 11:44 a.m. It's Sunday, February 9th, 2025, and this is the screen recording that I stated I would capture. And this is showing for illustrative purposes a screen recording showing you again the light source that is remaining over me at Alvarado Gardens on this day in 2024 at 8:31 a.m. and that which is hovering over me in the same manner in an entirely different region on the same day at the same time in 2025. And this is called completely documenting what is a malicious pattern of conduct referencing federal group stalking and monitoring. And it is identified, you can recognize it through what is the demonic environment, which is a part of the pattern of conduct. The pattern of conduct is not only the criminal elements of monitoring, it is the environment where the criminal elements of monitoring are underway. And it is an entirely supernatural event, phenomenon. It's a occurrence, a supernatural environment. Okay, where the demon possessed engage in what is a behavioral pattern. It is also supernatural that a population engages in an identical behavioral pattern, doing it in the supernatural environment. This is demonic activity in a demonic environment amongst the demon possessed. It is federal group stalking and monitoring. So on this day in 2024 at 8:31 a.m., which you see at the top, I'm at Alvarado Gardens at 1802 North Alvarado Street. Excuse me, 1808 North Alvarado Street, which is the leasing office, because to be precise, the property address is on paper, it would be identified as 1800 North Alvarado Street in Los Angeles, California, 91206. However, just being precise, which again, at federal prosecution, you can be even more precise with regard to the ecological address, the direction I'm facing, the time of day, duration of time, and the same thing with regard to where I am in Ontario, California today. There's no reconciling whatsoever at all under any circumstances ever with regard to what I'm capturing, which defies nature. And it is the prosecution of a government that is stalking as in concert with an entire population. And the entire population is demon possessed. The entire population that is demon possessed is severely mentally ill. And that obsession that the demon possessed did not ever want to be exposed, the mental illness that the demon possessed never wanted to be made known. They wanted to falsely depict the targeted individual as being mentally ill. But I want you to be clear, this is what Satan is doing as the accuser of the brethren, if you will, as the father of lies. This is literally Satan that is projecting what Satan's own issues. And so the demon possessed are falsely depicting the targeted individual as being mentally ill. Amplified audible activity of the demon in unit number 55, who's going to a mental asylum at 11:47 under the fake sun. You can see the fake sun here at 8:31 in the morning. She's going to a mental asylum and she's still gang stalking, and she's going to lose her housing while she's sitting in a mental asylum. So this is criminal monitoring of evidence that's with intent to obstruct justice. And this is a psychopath that's doing so on behalf of the government. So the entity is doing so and projecting mental illness on the targeted individual and doing so for a purpose. The entity is gang stalking an American citizen that it intends to murder, that it intends to kidnap inside of its facilities. And so while I'm being subject to the pattern of conduct, which you know conclusively because of the light source and the light source in concert with the behavioral pattern. The hallmark is stalking in helicopters, which I also documented today by the Ontario Police Department, is going to be disbanded. All right. The entity is engaged in a pattern of conduct of gang stalking. That's how it's ordinarily referred to. I have referred to it with incorporating cognizant of the law that it is in violation of, and it is federal group stalking and monitoring. In order to monitor an American citizen, which is demonic, you are stalking them. You're following them from place to place, and it's not an individual that is stalking, it's a population that is stalking. And the proof that multiple faces, different bodies, in other words, have the same criminal objective, are engaging in the same behavioral patterns, is evidenced through that specific environment, which is a scientific phenomenon. It is supernatural. It is identifying and recognizing what is inextricably linked is the spiritual realm, the demonic aspect regarding the stalking conduct of the government. All right. And that's how you have what is the fake sun over the Alvarado Gardens, where the Los Angeles Police Department is gang stalking, and it's putting the people that stayed at Woodside Senior Apartments, they're all going to federal prison. All right. The entity is doing so while they put themselves in federal prison, and also the evidence of the state of California gang stalking is putting them in federal prison. Okay. Repeating amplified audible activity threatening my life and safety in order to obstruct justice at 1149, the demon in unit number 55, license 5WUB 715. This is while she's engaged in federal stalking, and she is the entity that is acting with impunity. The same demon stalking in commercial planes, the same demons stalking in helicopters representing the corrupt police department, the same demons that are stalking in units 33 through 64, gang stalking while criminally interfering with quiet enjoyment because they don't like what they are criminally monitoring. And that is my commentary about how sexual violence, while monitoring as a community a woman inside of a private space, that is in violation of HUD regulations that govern this property where state surveillance is underway. Everyone's losing their housing benefits and everyone's waiting for a prosecution, not only under federal law for gang stalking, but under federal law governing violence against women, the HUD regulation, where they will all be losing their housing benefits, in addition to being prosecuted for being gang stalkers at Woodside Senior Apartments. All right. That's what's pounding on the ceiling at 11:49 a.m. So I want to be clear. This is the fake sun that's over Woodside Senior Apartments where the entity is pounding on the ceiling above my head. That's called audible activity. The fact that it's occurring as I'm referencing the criminal conduct is not a coincidence. It's that which is a criminal act of retaliation, of intimidation, of a criminal threat, both express and implied, and reasonably so, in that specific environment, which is showing the fact that it's criminal in nature and not some mere contractual violation with regard to quiet enjoyment. It is serving the state's P.O.C. So this is the P.O.C. and I'm showing the fake sun at 8:32 in the morning. Negligible difference with regard to 8:31 is the exact same time and 29 seconds that started this video on this day in 2024. Equally probative. Just want to show that negligible difference, as I always aim to be as precise as possible in order to make sure that you can understand what is not only impossible, as you can see on your face, the sun that's over Alvarado Gardens is not moving to remain over all of us everywhere that we're going, no matter where you're at in this country, and also over me remaining stationary as I'm driving from Alvarado Gardens to Woodside Senior Apartments. The sun maintaining this ubiquitous presence everywhere in its zenith over the top of your head for the duration of the day. That's not the sun. And there's also one sun with regard to the natural environment. There is necessarily a level of malice inherent to this pattern of conduct where I'm being stalked and terrorized by helicopters and by a population that is engaging in what is monitoring me, which is demonic. Okay. And they're doing so in the readily identified environment that also includes what is gang stalking where they live and work in a highly malicious manner. You're going to prison. In other words, the federal government knows exactly where to find you. It's the easiest prosecution in that regard. And they're also going to federal prison because of the impunity that's inherent to gang stalking where you live, the impunity that's inherent to gang stalking where you work, the impunity that's inherent to gang stalking with the population, the impunity that's inherent to gang stalking with an intent to obstruct justice, the inherent intent to obstruct justice with regard to criminal defamation that's adjacent to what is psychological torture. Yeah, you're going to prison for that. All right. That's what the entity is doing while it's targeting American citizens. And so this is the light source that's over me in Los Angeles, California. I want you to see this light source that's over Woodside Senior Apartments at the same time on this day in 2024. Hold on one second. The entity is monitoring, so let me just recalibrate. Oh, this is documentation, by the way, of the fake sun that's remaining at Alvarado Gardens. It hasn't left from Alvarado Gardens when I documented on this day. This is why you document Satan, because Satan is a liar. Satan will engage in criminally defaming you, while Satan is in all manner the sex offender, the stalker, the psychopath that the evidence proves that it is. And Satan is going by the name of the demon in Unit 55, license 5WUB 715. Satan is going by the name of AVANATH Capital Management, LLC, headquartered in Irvine, California. Satan is going by the Ontario International Airport and every gang stalking airline. Satan is going by the Ontario Police Department. All right, that's going to be disbanded and prosecuted for kidnapping. Satan is going by the name of Linda Reyes, a gang stalking community manager who's going to federal prison. All right. And everybody in units 33 through 64 who are gang stalking with the Ontario International Airport. That is, again, stalking in a plane that I can hear inside of the apartment, which is a terrorizing threat to the ordinary target individual. Also, the communication of an impermissible threat, which is relevant to how long that demon in a commercial plane who's going to be identified. They're literally going to identify themselves. What plane was flown, what time they were flying, what their identity, because they're going to prison. So this is an entity that has literally decided to go down burning. This is an inevitable demise, and they have decided that they're just going to continuously accumulate more and more inevitable repercussions, which speaks to you. What does that tell you about the national security threat? That's what that tells you. All right, this is the P.O.C.
This is LAPD group stalking.
8:31 a.m. This is the fake sun at the same time in Ontario, California.
This is group stalking by the Los Angeles Police Department. Again, I'm in my office. This is Carlo. He's an SCI employee. He's group stalking as well.
Carlo Lopez is a third-party group stalker that is engaged in criminal monitoring, which is a sex offense that's ongoing in the workplace. So he is going to federal prison, and this is the malice with which he's engaging in that POC. He is crossing paths, walking in the parking lot, in concert with the demons that are flying over in helicopter that is amplified inside of my office. These are the elements of monitoring, while the fake sun is hovering in position over my head at what is, again, 1808 North Alvarado Street in Los Angeles, California, which I am documenting same time of year, literally the same exact day and same time, to be as precise and complete as possible in the prosecution of the state of California and in the prosecution of gang stalking landlords in violation of violence against women. That is AVANATH Capital Management, who is in violation of federal housing policies while it is seeking to participate in federal housing programs that its gang stalking residents are in violation of as well, while they're monitoring with the state of California, and they do so with impunity. They entirely disregard the federal laws that will keep them qualified for receiving federal housing benefits. They are in complete disregard of the violation of federal law that's putting them in federal prison, every single last one of them. And the government that fully incorporates their engagement in the elements of monitoring while they hover over in planes and helicopters like the LAPD did. And Carlo Lopez is gang stalking while walking under that fake sun, crossing path, creating light activity in sync with the amplified audible activity of helicopter, threatening my life and monitoring me in the workplace at that. That's what you're aware of while gang stalking is underway in Ontario, California under the fake sun, and gang stalking is underway in Los Angeles.
And I'm in my office. This is Carlo. He's an SCI employee. He's group stalking as well. I'll show you the light source, which is directly over me. Carlo, a co-worker with this employee, represents the people of the state who are monitoring. This entire community is monitoring. LAPD is monitoring. And this is an impermissible threat while they monitor the ongoing documentation of their criminal system in operation. Again, under the light.
This is the light source that's hovering over me, and this is where the fake sun remains for the duration of the day. This is what I'm documenting at the same time that LAPD is flying over the sun that's over Alvarado Gardens. What LAPD is flying over me while I'm looking at this light source over my head in Los Angeles, California, is not that which is over me at Woodside Senior Apartments, where these demons are stalking in commercial planes at the Ontario International Airport, and by gang stalking with lead-footed demons in the apartments that are interfering with quiet enjoyment in order to monitor a woman inside of a private space, which is a criminal violation of the Violence Against Women Act, in violation of the HUD regulations that govern this property, where they are gang stalking in violation of their own of the laws that keep them capable of remaining in the housing where they can't even pay their rent, and they're gang stalking with the state.
I just want to document this is criminal monitoring by the people of the state. I'm engaging in the same surveillance that the mail yesterday was engaged in concert with the Ontario International Airport. And of course, they're making deliveries right here next to me for purposes of crossing path. They're delivering items in engineered light that's appearing in the shade, stalking in the path with light activity at the venue where the fake sun remains for the duration.
That's the fake sun that remains here. And as I'm documenting again, the demon is pacing in unit number 55 above. This is the entire entity that's gang stalking in private space while evidence is being documented that belongs to the feds. So I just want to be clear. That is the ongoing intrusion in an ongoing federal investigation. And as those that are aware how the law operates, you get more time in federal prison. And the entity at Woodside Senior Apartments has engaged in years of criminal obstruction into a federal investigation, and they do so with impunity. They are getting a minimum of 7 years based on the duration of time that they've been gang stalking with the state. They're getting more than 7 years based on the totality of the crime that the demons at Woodside Senior Apartments, in violation of HUD regulation, continuously engage in. Okay? It's P.O.C. while the amplified audible activity, which is a threat to the life of the target individual, and an ongoing perpetual sex offense at 11:59 a.m. Just want to include that.
This is group stalking by the Los Angeles Police Department. Again, I'm in my office. This is Carlo. He's an SCI employee. He's group stalking as well. I'll show you the light source, which is directly over me. Carlo, a co-worker with this employee, represents the people of the state who are monitoring. This entire community is monitoring. Los Angeles PD, LAPD is monitoring. And this is an impermissible threat while they monitor the ongoing documentation of their criminal system. 5XTC276.
That's the license plate of the third party that is gang stalking, the same way that Carlo Lopez is gang stalking under the fake sun crossing path, and doing so with the demon that was engaged in ongoing amplified pacing at 6:17 in the morning. This demon is up at all hours, stalking me in the living room in position, stalking with simultaneity to like she's doing now, and she's doing so on behalf of an entity at 6:17 in the morning in the dark wee hours. She is pacing and stalking and interfering with criminal interference at 6 o'clock in the morning, at 2 o'clock in the morning, at 4:15 in the morning, in concert with the city of Ontario. And she's doing so now while evidence putting her in prison is literally being gathered for the federal government during the course of an investigation, that she is fully surrounded with evidence that does not view her very well at all. She's going to prison under all circumstances. All right. She's actually going to a mental asylum. She is representing the people. They're all going to prison, and they all continuously interfere with the federal investigation. And this third party with this license plate, she serves the same criminal purpose that Carlo Lopez does. Crossing path in the specific environment, monitoring on a communication device under the fake sun, and doing so with impunity. Carlo Lopez in the workplace is gang stalking, and he's going to federal prison on more than one basis because he's monitoring in a workplace. Where the target individual is being gang stalked at work, you're going to federal prison. And that is literally, again, something else that's axiomatic. You're being targeted at work, you're going to prison for that. And also, he's also going to federal prison because he's gang stalking an American citizen where I live as well. And so this is systematic facilitation. He's going to federal prison because he's systematically, and you're doing so when you're working at the venue, you're systematically gang stalking. And because he's also going to federal prison because he is engaged in monitoring with the Los Angeles Police Department for literally, I documented months and months of this criminal conduct, highly malicious. That's why Carlo Lopez gang stalking with speaker companies. In doing so, that's exactly the criminal system that AVANATH Capital Management is engaged in, while the Ontario International Airport and the Ontario Police Department are gang stalking. So again, this third party who was her license is...
Let me get that license plate. It is 5KTC276, 5XTC276. The entity is engaging in things like Uber, delivering groceries. This is the form where the pattern of conduct remains underway. There's no sound of traffic that's ever going to be heard inside of the...
So that vehicle that just drove by on Vine Avenue, the demons are amplifying the sound of traffic, which you can't even hear barely while I'm standing outside. The demons that are monitoring in a private space are amplifying all manner of activity, which is demonic. It's supernatural. So is the demon that's walking upstairs in her apartment, and it creates amplified earthquake conduct, cracking of the walls and the ceiling, which I've also captured in video, which you can hear the loud activity. The entity is doing this 24 hours a day. It is psychological torture. It is the commission of an exceedingly violent sex offense, and they're all going to prison for that criminal facilitation that's occurring on a 24-hour basis. This third party comes and engages in the P.O.C. by delivering in the specific environment. You're walking in an engineer light that's just appearing in the shade out of nowhere. Again, you're engaging in that P.O.C. and doing so with impunity while I am capturing it.
I just want to document, this is criminal monitoring.
And this is somebody that is gang stalking on behalf of the state. Coming on to, this is what AVANATH Capital Management is going to be prosecuted for. Gang stalking under the fake sun that's over me in Los Angeles, California at the same time, is recognizing the population who is gang stalking throughout the state of California. And doing so while coming onto the property of AVANATH Capital Management, which makes you a facilitator of state surveillance, and you will be civilly and criminally liable for it. I don't have to ever meet the president or the CEO of AVANATH in order to prosecute them for what they are liable for civilly and criminally that the state is engaging in, and the state relies on them, relies on the people, relies on the population, and relies on the criminal engagement. Every angle of that criminal system is underway as well. That's why you have the elderly up at all hours, not sleeping, all right, not leaving, not abandoning ship either. This demon stays in the living room where I'm in the living room, and this demon is stalking with simultaneity to everything that I do. That's no coincidence. There are no coincidences, by the way, under the fake sun. There's no coincidences where the state that is already an established gang stalker is engaged in that POC at that venue. And there is also no coincidence when you're engaged in a pattern of conduct showing what is unreasonable under all circumstances. You are gang stalking as a landlord, where your residents are gang stalking, where the people of the state are coming onto the property grounds and they're gang stalking with that state. And while the entity is engaged in psychological torture for 3+ hours, this demon walks out with simultaneity to my walking out of the front door and capturing this video. So this is documentation again, her license plate.
By the people of the state. I'm engaging in the same surveillance that the mail yesterday was engaged in concert with the Ontario International Airport. And of course, they're making deliveries right here next to me for purposes of crossing path. They're delivering items.
You're delivering your products in engineered light. You're monitoring.
Engineered light. And
delivering products in the engineered light. You're monitoring.
Engineered light that's appearing in the shade. Stalking in the path with light activity at the venue where the fake sun remains.
You're delivering your products into the fake sun that sits there all day long for the gang stalking purposes of the population and the government itself. That's why it sits over the apartment building all day long, while demons over the age of 55 who are unemployed and need assistance to pay their rent and are in violation with the federal laws that govern how the property is supposed to be ran, where you're not allowed to engage in stalking, criminal stalking, and the landlord itself is engaged in stalking. That's why the manager is gang stalking, the employees are gang stalking, and the residents are gang stalking. The government is on the property grounds and in the sky space, gang stalking, and the population comes onto the grounds, gang stalking. AVANATH Capital Management is civilly and criminally liable in violation of Violence Against Women, the Violence Against Women Act, and they will be prosecuted under HEAD regulations. And they are also going to be excluded from being able to participate in housing programs in order to provide housing benefits to the population, as a landlord is shown engaging in it. And that is if, okay, AVANATH survives criminal prosecution, because I argue that when you are a domestic terrorist like AVANATH Capital Management, you are a threat to the public. They are in the industry of real estate where American citizens are residing, they're living. And you are not only profiting, but you're engaging in their in the criminal system, threatening the life and liberty and privacy of an American citizen with impunity, disregard. You continuously do more of it while you're being reported to the feds, which again, you're doing so while you're making money. And that is directly in furtherance of murdering and kidnapping someone. Okay, it follows that no gang stalking landlord should be permitted to continue as a business. That's not a constitutional right. Okay, damages are designed to devastate that company. AVANATH Capital Management has other properties. I've already went through this in my podcast discussion. I'm not going to repeat it. But the argue and justice does dictate that AVANATH Capital Management not only be civilly and criminally liable, which the evidence surrounds them with that, but you're talking about not surviving. So in other words, a company that's so large, so big, they're too big to fail, if you will. Meaning it doesn't matter how devastating the damages are, they can survive after that and continuously operate with the reputation of being a domestic terrorist. The trauma that a commercial actor will suffer by virtue of being exposed as a terrorist and as a sex offender, as a gang stalker, that's devastating in and of itself. The commercial brand. But again, justice, you're talking about what justice requires. The federal government shutting down businesses that are engaged in this level of facilitation to the government that needs the people who live around the target individual to target. And that's why justice serves AVANATH being shut down altogether. As a matter of justice, they have multiple properties in California and throughout the country. And this is what the government needs in order to keep American citizens under surveillance. This is how they're doing it. So this is what I'm stating. Justice does mandate that AVANATH Capital Management be removed altogether. But nonetheless, this is the fake sun as I'm documenting, and this demon's life
the duration of the day, as you'll recall yesterday, in the middle of the afternoon, the fake sun is over this same roof. That's called P.O.C. And you also know that she's monitoring a violation of Title 18. Let me get that license plate. It is 5KTC276, 5XTC276. The entity is engaging in things like Uber, delivering groceries. This is the form where the pattern of conduct remains underway. There's no sound of traffic that's ever going to be heard inside of the apartment. That's what I've been documenting on the document entitled WSA-The People.
Alrighty, and so this is the POC that's underway under the fake sun at 8:32 a.m. And this is the same position that the fake sun is over me in LA, where LAPD is gang stalking. And so at the same exact time, down to the same minute, I did get it at 8:31. I went right into video as I capture that. So this is where the specific environment is at, and this is where the fake sun remains. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct. As I'm showing,
it is currently 10:56 a.m.
Hours later, the fake sun is over the same venues. So this is, again, this hovering light source at 11:12 is when this video ends. The fake sun is over me in Los Angeles on this day, and it remains in Los Angeles. But we can just analyze duration of time. 8:30, 2 hours later at 2 hours later at 10:56. And then the natural environment is such that somehow sun is over the people in New York and in Boston and somewhere in Texas and up in Minneapolis. The entity is gang stalking in a readily identifiable environment. And the demon that is pacing around, stomping, bowling, throwing their body around, pacing back and forth, creating earthquake-like conduct with impunity, disregard. She's going to be homeless. She's not going to be able to get any more housing benefits. She's going to a mental asylum, still continuously gang stalking. She is gang stalking in a readily identifiable environment that incriminates everyone else as well. Never mind the fact that she doesn't care that she's going to a mental asylum. The state of California is being prosecuted by it. Okay? It is intentional. It's criminal interference with quiet enjoyment in the same way that this fake sun is a violation of quiet enjoyment and the engineer light inside of the apartment, the stalking by the planes, the stalking by the helicopter, which is what I captured in this video at 10:56 in the morning, where the fake sun on this same day remains, first of all, number one, it remains over me in Los Angeles, which is documented. And number two, the duration of time, the fake sun is over the same building where it is at 8:31 in the morning. And here it is over the same building at 10:56 in the morning. And it's moving in real time as I move. Okay, pay attention. As I move, that fake sun moves as I move. Look at this. This is not the sun. This is demonic. These are demons that are stalking at an apartment complex. You are a gang stalking landlord. You're a domestic terrorist. And you are in violation of Violence Against Women Act under HUD regulations as the landlord and as every demon that is gang stalking at the apartment complex. They will all be prosecuted under Violence Against Women Act. Okay. And they're also going to be prosecuted for gang stalking with the state of California. And they do so with impunity. Every single last one of them monitoring together with the demon in Unit 55. Okay, up 24/7, gang stalking me where I remain in the living room as I walk into the kitchen, as I walk back. All of them being prosecuted, gang stalking on a 24-hour basis with the Ontario International Airport. All of them being gang stalking on a 24-hour basis with the Ontario Police Department. All of them gang stalking on a 24-hour basis with the population that comes onto the grounds to share in the criminal elements of monitoring. They're all being prosecuted as the entity that they are, sharing. That's why they're all under a fake sun. The entity is going to be prosecuted for that conduct that they're engaging in together. Okay, and so not only is this captured at 11:12 a.m., let's just go ahead and look at what was happening as the entity kept a fake sun over me while I am remaining inside of, in Los Angeles. And the entity has the fake sun over me. Yeah, as I'm capturing it, this is 10:48 in the morning. The entity is gang stalking by helicopter where the fake sun is remaining. This is the entity, the fake sun over the same apartment building at 10:50 in the morning, where I am documenting again commercial actors such as Smart Janitorial, who's going to federal prison. This Latino male who, again, if he's not a natural born citizen, this is the same analysis, is going to be deported. But he was gang stalking on a systematic basis. He arrived as I'm the property manager. He was cleaning my property on a weekly basis, 3 times a week. And he was gang stalking 3 times a week. That's systematic criminal engagement in the pattern of conduct, threatening my life and in furtherance of that P.O.C. on behalf of the state. You're going to prison for that. And they're doing so in this readily identifiable environment where there is no sun that's going to be sitting idle. This is why you document, okay? This is exactly why you document. 10:56 a.m. I'm starting this video because the entity is gang stalking me by helicopter. And at 10:51 a.m., the entity is keeping the fake sun over the same location over me in Alvarado Gardens. This is the P.O.C. All right. AVANATH Capital Management is a gang stalking. This is a domestic terrorist, in other words, a gang stalking landlord. In the same way that Speaker Companies, a gang stalking landlord and a gang stalking employer. They hired me in order to target me in furtherance of the state's conspiracy to murder and kidnap me. And they're continuing that conduct here in Ontario. And everyone
working for AVANATH at Woodside. Everyone in units 33 through 64 is going to prison. Everyone in units 1 through 144 at Woodside, they're all catching a federal case for Violence Against Women's Act, and they're all being federally prosecuted for state surveillance with the state. They're all engaged in federal stalking. Okay, the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and the level of ignorance is just it's unfathomable what I'm capturing. Again, the demons that are gang stalking and the high level of unintelligence that I am surrounded by is literally a threat to your life, because you're looking at the level of obsession and the level of inexplicable idiocy. Actually, this is not the sun, and neither could the sun. So again, let's look at it just isolated from the top. 8:30 in the morning, the fake sun is in the same position. 8:30 in the morning down here at Woodside Senior Apartments, the fake sun is in the same position. The sun is not going to maintain this position, by the way, at both venues. There's only one sun, and that which is over Woodside Senior Apartments over the roof is not over Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles. It's not creating any sunlight inside of my apartment like I documented, because I'm subject to surveillance inside of my private space. All right, this is what I'm documenting while I'm inside of my unit. That's engineered light. That's not sunlight. Okay, that's engineered light on the floor inside of my living room. All right, that's the fake sun over the top of my head at my front door, while the entity is keeping the fake sun stationary over Woodside Senior Apartments over the same roof, where demons having a field day, doing backflips, creating earthquakes, pacing back and forth, stalking in planes and helicopters like no one's going to prison. They're all going to prison. They're all going to prison. So the entity is doing so, remember, in furtherance of murder. This is what an entity is doing to an American citizen that is suffering in silence, that has no evidence to prove it, that can't even understand and necessarily what they're subject to, nor is there any system whereby they can enforce their rights. Okay? Somebody that knows the law. Gang stalking with your kids. That's what Tiffany Sherez was doing. Gang stalking with her kids with the with the Los Angeles Police Department. Okay, because that's what I'm capturing. Gang stalking me by the Los Angeles Police Department, while the demons hand in hand with their children targeting me under that fake sun. That level of impunity, they're losing their children, just like the demons in Unit 41. They like to engage in gang stalking with their kids. You're losing your kids. All right, this is the entity that is keeping a fake sun for the duration of the day, and they're doing so on an ongoing basis. And so this is the P.O.C. I just want to make sure what I'm documenting on an ongoing basis is that which I was subject to in Los Angeles, and the entity maintain that light source, and the entity LAPD stalking for the duration of the day. I'm showing at 3:55 p.m. You already know that the entity is keeping the fake sun over me at Alvarado Gardens. And so while I'm here, let's just go ahead and capture. As also, these are the demons that are gang stalking with their kids. Okay, she's losing her kids. You can see this demon is disturbed. But this is, again, I'm not looking at her. She's looking dead at me, though. She's looking dead at me. When I'm holding my camera, I don't hold my camera out at them. I don't say, look, cheese. I don't say, oh, I'm documenting you. I capture pictures of the beautiful sky, of that bright, shiny sun over my head. And as I've got my phone in my hand and I'm not looking at them, and I walk back into my apartment, they're looking right at me. They know exactly what I'm documenting. And you know that they're stalking using their kids and doing so while they're riding their little tricycles in engineer light, while they're flying their paper kites in engineer light, and laughing and running back and forth, pacing in engineer light, and their gang stalking, demon possessed sex offender mother is doing so, using them to do so. And she knows that I'm documenting that she does not care about keeping her kids. She doesn't care. She's losing them also. Her and Tiffany Sherez. Demons, gang stalking, their criminal activities competing with each other. They're putting each other in federal prison. All right. And there is never any sunlight, by the way, that's going to result in what is engineer light inside of the peephole inside of this apartment. I just want to show you that. I just want to show you this phenomenon.
To the depths of the apartment on the wall here. Okay, this is the evidence that's going to remove the mayor from office. This is the evidence that's putting everybody in federal prison that lives at Woodside Senior Apartments. The demons that live on the opposite side of this wall, they're going to prison. There's sex offenders monitoring my genitalia on a 24-hour basis. And so are all of that were gang stalking, and they're gang stalking now with the police who fly over. The entity seeks to engage in that pattern of conduct with the intent to obstruct justice, trying to threaten, intimidate, torment,
psychologically torture and whatnot, but I want you to see the engineer light that's piercing through the peephole. All right. The demon in unit number, again, 55. This is, again,
light is appearing on the ceiling, framing the door and onto the wall. This is the same positioning of this light.
That's the light activity where demons are stomping and pounding and beating the floor, which is criminal interference of psychopaths that are obsessed with stalking me. They're obsessed with my genitalia. They're violent sex offenders, and they're also psychopaths that engage in criminal acts of retaliation. You're still losing your kids. Matter of fact, you're definitely losing your kids because you engage in more criminal activity as the fact that you are a violent sex offender and a domestic terrorist, as that's revealed against you, you engage in harming another even more so. Those are the demons that are going to federal prison. And that's what is included in the demon in Unit 55, engaged in that documented act as I'm speaking to the P.O.C. right now. The demon in Unit 55 is pounding on the floor above my head. Where you're looking at this light activity coming through a peephole, that's intentional criminal interference with quiet enjoyment. That is not the product of sunlight, and it certainly isn't while the sun is remaining over Alvarado Gardens, which is what you see at 3:53 p.m. There's no provision for the sun to sit over Alvarado Gardens with regard to the natural environment, I suppose, while you are looking at that level of what is highly demonic. This is where demons are beating on the floor, beating on the walls, pacing back and forth like a psychopath, like a lap dog. Picture in your mind's eye running back and forth like chasing their tail. That's what the demon that's over 55 years old, that has no job, the demons that's living in Unit 41 with 2 minor children, the demons that are pacing around over 55 living at this venue, gang stalking on a 24-hour basis, where you're looking at this light activity that's putting all of them in federal prison. That's the intent to do so. All right, this is gang stalking by a landlord, AVANATH, and gang stalking in an environment where the entity is doing so with the intent to obstruct justice. And it's just not wise when it's the federal prosecutor. It's my job to put you in prison. That's exactly where you're going. All right, and the national security threat is what you need to appreciate while you're witnessing the prosecution of the state of California, a bunch of demons that are gang stalking and who are over 55 years old. Okay, it's a shame. It's 12:20 p.m. while the demon in Unit 55 is acting as an entity, beating on the floor and on the ceiling, just like I documented on video, where you can hear the crackling ceiling and whatnot, while this demon is monitoring inside of a private space. And that's the light activity inside of the apartment. All right. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct on an ongoing basis. And so what you see is the fake sun right now. While I'm documenting ongoing obstruction, let me just go ahead and capture the fake sun right now. Where the entity is engaged in ongoing, stalking, and engineer light, beating on the walls, stomping right here above my head, where I'm walking, I'm moving, I'm right here. This is engineer light that's on an upward trajectory. All right, they're stalking in the parking lot. They're stalking, engaging in surveillance. They know exactly what it is that I'm doing. And the demon that's gang stalking in Unit number 55, this is what she looks like. She's going to prison. All right, she's gang stalking with the demon that was in license 5XTC276. Engaging in surveillance. She's gang stalking with the entity that is, again, as you see, walking out of their units. She's walking in engineer light. She's monitoring me, and she's doing the same thing as a corrupt entity. And so in the images that I will go ahead and capture, this is the same demon that is very heavily documented, gang stalking as an entity. Doing so, again, Tracy Banks is fully engaged in all criminal conduct. She is monitoring her own daughter. She's conspired to murder me, engaged in theft of my property with the government, and then just conspired to murder me in order to get away with stealing property that belongs to me, assuming my identity, committing egregious criminal conduct, and then trying to frame me with the corrupt state, with the corrupt government in these corrupt courts for committing these crimes that I never committed. I was gainfully employed at Alvarado Gardens. I was kidnapped inside of the West Valley Detention Center. Everywhere that I was at is a matter of documentation. So my documentation is also serving to prosecute this entity that has engaged in theft of property and criminal defamation with regard to getting away with all of the criminal conduct that the state of California has engaged in altogether. This is Tracy Banks that is engaged in gang stalking me while the entity, a bunch of strangers that I don't know, are targeting me with their kids inside of the private space, along with the gang stalking airlines. All right, that are doing so at all hours, but I want to be clear. This is the demon that is gang stalking inside of Unit number 55. Okay, she is doing so with impunity. Again, her license plate is 5WUB715. She gets the criminal assistance of the Ontario International Airport. She gets the criminal assistance of the Ontario Police Department. She gets the assistance of the demons that are gang stalking in the parking lot that are contracted by AVANATH Capital Management, and doing so under a fake sun while engineer light pierces through the peephole. Okay, while engineer light appears up above my head on the inside. There's no sunlight that's going to come through the side while the sun is above and come through the side, and then at an upward trajectory where I can walk in it. This is creating my shadow inside of it, and also horizontally through the peephole, piercing into the depths of the apartment. That's impossible light activity. It's criminal interference with quiet enjoyment. All right, this is speaking to the pattern of conduct where the fake son is at the same venue. Okay, this is P.O.C. and it's a sex offense. The demons are crossing paths. So let me show you what a demon was doing right now, knowing what I'm doing, which is walking out. Trying to hurry up and flee the scene. Sitting in surveillance, gang stalking. All right, trying to flee the scene is what this is right here. And they're gang stalking inside of a private space. This is the city of Ontario. That's a sex offender. All right, and the fake son, again, moving as I move. This is what you saw earlier today. And this is what you're seeing now. That's how you're identifying stalking. All right, as an entity. And this is the fake son that's not going to be anywhere at Alvarado Gardens. All right, and this is the environment where the elderly, violent sex offenders, all right, monitoring, monitoring me and monitoring while I'm inside of a private space. All right, psychopaths that are doing so on an ongoing basis. Engineer light, not sunlight, that's appearing on above my head on the inside, piercing through the depths of the apartment, and engineer light and also reflecting off of surfaces. It's not sunlight, it's P.O.C. And doing so with impunity. Okay, they're all going to prison. All of them are going to prison. It is currently, again, 12:24 p.m. while the entity engages in an egregious sex offense together. Alrighty, and while they walk outside, like you see there, inside what's the concerted conduct exists, and booming, banging, earthquake conduct, while they just walk in engineer light under the fake sun, engaging in surveillance in the parking lot, and trying to flee the scene while driving in the opposite direction because the demons know what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Okay, that impunity. That's why 33 through 64, they're all going to prison, and AVANATH is going to be prosecuted under violence against women, the VAWA Act. And they're also going to be prosecuted for domestic terrorism. This is psychological torture and domestic terrorism, and an ongoing sex offense that's underway inside of a private space, which is criminal surveillance by the people of the state in concert with the state of California. It is currently, again, 12:25 p.m. where the entity is keeping this fake son on this day over me. As a matter of evidence, at 3:53, it's still over Alvarado Gardens. It didn't go anywhere. But I'm showing you how it's remaining stationary over me at at Woodside Senior Apartments. And I am documenting this P.O.C. as I remain subject to it. And so that's what you could see here. 12:01, I'm still inside of my office. This is inside of my apartment. And the entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct with ongoing impunity, especially the heavily documented stalking conduct by the Los Angeles Police Department, acting in concert with the people of the state who lived at this property. And while they were monitoring, again, the property manager, that's why that whole property is going to federal prison. That's what Woodside Senior Apartments also deserves, by the way. They deserve the same thing. You're seeing engineer light piercing into the depths of the office, while the fake son remains at the same venue. Remember, at 8:31 in the morning, and then you've got 3:53 in the afternoon. That's non-movement of the fake son from one side of the building to the other. All right, let's look at it at 8:31 in the morning. It's at the same property on the opposite side of building 1810. All right, that's understanding stalking as you're recognizing it by a population, by a venue, by a government. That's what's happening as the fake son sits over Woodside Senior Apartments, specifically the units 33 through 64. And the fake son is sitting idle.
Stalking by the Los Angeles Police Department.
Because that's where it's sitting.
And I'm in my office. This is Carlo. He's an SCI employee. He's group stalking as well. I'll show you the light source, which is directly over me. Carlo, a co-worker with this employee, represents the people of the state who are monitoring. This entire community is monitoring. Los Angeles LAPD is monitoring. And this
There's no planes taking off at the airport from the airport here. That's P.O.C. That's gang stalking by the airlines from the city of Ontario, targeting by virtue of their presence, because there's no airports taking off here. So they're flying west, flying higher than the fake sun is, that's hovering over the same location. And they're heightening in elevation after they fly over Woodside Senior Apartments. Terminal 2 and Terminal 4 are nowhere over here. And they're also flying over a multi-family zone. They're doing so 24 hours a day while they are being documented and monitoring on my phone. And they're helping AVANATH Capital Management harassment, engage in what is Violence Against Women Act violations. Okay, and this is the city of Ontario that's also violating privacy in doing so. It's a massive sex offense, and this is what
This is an impermissible threat while they monitor the ongoing documentation of their criminal system in operation. Again, under the light source, in the natural environment, the sun is never remaining not only in its zenith directly over you, but for in excess of 7 to 8 hours, as I continue to document, is the specific environment, not the natural environment. Amplifying helicopter activity inside of my office is serving the elements of criminal monitoring.
And that is P.O.C. This is where the entity is stalking in commercial airline planes. And it is the commission of an egregious sex offense. All right, that's the removal of Paul Leon and every other demon gang stalking under his watch. His days are numbered. This is P.O.C.